Welcome back to the Game with Chums podcast. I am your host for today, the glorious, the magnificent Paulus. With me, as always, is my humble and articulate and slightly taller than average Mr. Ross. Mr. Ross, how are you?
How's it going, chums? I'm good. I'm
Good.
the same as always, really,
Good,
because
yeah.
life doesn't really change.
No, life's not changed,
Here we
but
are.
it will do soon. What have you been playing? What have you been watching? What have you been doing? Like, have you been doing anything?
What have I been playing? I think I mentioned on our last podcast I started playing through all the Ease games. So I'm on Ease 4 now, so I've been playing through that and playing through some, well, not playing through, but last weekend when we were originally meant to do this podcast, but I was feeling a bit under the weather, the Halo Infinite tech preview was on. So I played about 15 hours of that over the weekend. But I think we're probably going to talk about that in a bit. But yeah, other than that, bit of Ease, Memories of Celceta.
Yeah.
Which is quite fun. Watching, what have I been watching? Not much, really. Because My Hero Academia season 5 is on at the moment, and I watched the first 4 seasons ages ago and forgot half of it. I've been rewatching that from the start, so I'm about halfway through season 3 of that now. And then earlier today I was watching the Olympics closing ceremony.
Oh yeah.
And I was thinking, this is in Tokyo, man. Where's my giant robots? It was just like a big band and swing dancing. I was like, this isn't what I want from Japan. And then they started playing the OP from Demon Slayer, and I was like, okay, I'm on board now. Let's do this. Do some more anime OPs.
Yeah.
What about you? What have you been up to?
What I've been up to? Just working and outside of work, doing live streams. I've completed Mass Effect 1, and now I've imported Mass Effect 1 character into Mass Effect 2, and I'm doing a live stream of that. I actually put it to a vote on our Twitter. Should I stream Apex, Mass Effect 2, or something else? And people vote for Mass Effect 2, so I'm doing that.
Which you're very happy about because you wanted to get off Apex for a bit.
Yeah, I kind of burnt out on it a bit. It's I like it, but I'm going to give it a rest for a while. And what I've been watching when I've been started to watch Jujutsu Kaisen. I think I've like episode 4 or 5, and at the moment I'm not really blown away. I was like, so it's got a lot of hype behind it, so I was like, right, let's watch it. It's one of the big new animes that's come out recently, and so far it's okay. I mean, like it is just basically started, and we've been introduced to the new female member of the group, the one with the hammer, and I've not been blown away. I've just kind of been thinking, it's okay. It takes
a few episodes to settle in, but it is very good when it gets going.
The action I've seen, which was from the first episode, it's really well animated, but it's kind of with anime, it takes something, especially like that sort of anime. What's it fall under?
Shonen, I guess.
Shonen. You need something pretty special to like blow people away these days, because we've been spoiled with so much good action and stuff like that on anime. But it's been okay. I mean, it's 24 episodes, I think, 24 or 22. So yeah, you always got to give these things sort of time to sort of flesh out the characters and introduce the world and stuff like that. But at the moment, yeah, it's okay. What have I been doing? Just now that we're allowed out, been to the local brewery again, to Gypsy Hill Brewery. I went there for a few drinks. Good place. We should go there one day. And just basically it really. Just headed back to the pub. Going to a restaurant.
We're opening up. I'm going to the pub.
Went to this really cracking Italian restaurant. Really good, man. Like I had my sister had this vegetarian calzone. Really good. I had this vegetarian pizza, and it's proper Italian style pizza, so it's all flat and everything like that. That was really good. It's so much. It's so big.
Mm.
couldn't eat it all, so I asked them if I could take it home. So they brought me a little
Give me a doggy bag.
Yeah, they gave me the pizza box and stuff. I was like, man, it's so good. I can't just not throw it away.
Can't just leave it behind.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been doing that, man. Just been sort of, enjoying the freedom that we can now have. Like, I'm still being cautious. I'm wearing my mask when I go into shops and public transport. I'm not taking that chance. I see a lot of people just not bothering now, and no social distancing. They seem to think like the virus has just sort of gone away. It hasn't. It's still there.
All over now.
Yeah, it's still here. It was getting variants and stuff, so it's still a problem until everyone gets vaccinated, or some people don't want it, but we won't get into that. It's still a big problem. I think it's going to be one of those things that's going to be with us for many years to come. We just have to learn to live with it, really. But yeah, that's been everything, man. Like, I know, like you're fully vaccinated and everything now, so you're good. But
they're talking about booster shots now, aren't they? So
yeah,
I assume I'll be getting a booster shot in the next couple of months.
Booster shot to deal with these fucking these bloody new variants that keep coming up. It's mutating, man.
Well, the thing is, they don't really know how long immunity lasts, do they? So it's all kind of new in that respect. So I think there were sort of suggestions that immunity lasts for like 6 months or so. So I think that's what they're going with at the moment. So people are getting sort of their booster shot 6 months after their second, which would be October for me, I think, end of October. So
yeah,
I don't care. If I need a booster shot every 6 months, do it.
Yeah. And as you can see, well, if you're listening to this on Spotify, you won't be able to see it. But if you're watching the YouTube version, I got rid of the digital background because it was getting on my nerves. Like, every time you move, it was just like distort and stuff. So you can just sort of see part of my room. You got, like, there's my cat. Gigi's just ignoring us. I got like loads of my figurines, games, Blu-rays, a picture of cats. This Halo.
I can see that Master Chief display I bought you years ago.
Some dude got me that. I don't know who. But yeah, so I decided to go more.
I'm pretty sure I can see a couple of maids up there as well, Paul.
Yeah, got Steins Gate girls there. You got Kurisu, and you got what was it?
Faris, isn't it?
Faris, yeah. She only made cafe in Akihabara. So yeah, I decided to go more natural. So yeah,
I mean, you do it when you're streaming anyway, so
that's it. I thought, now that this is how I sort of got my setup a bit more, I'll just get rid of the background now and let people see it the way I live. Like my cat sleeping on my t-shirt, which is full of his cat hair, which is great. So yeah, but moving on. Gaming news.
Meanwhile, I've got my gaming and weeb shrine behind me as always.
He's always had that, man. Like, so yeah, I just want to show off my well, you can sort of see him, but yeah, gaming news rules. What's been happening in the world of gaming? That's what we're here for.
Well, I actually tried to prepare this week, because usually we just kind of wing it. We go, like, right before we start recording, we're like, what happened this week?
Yeah,
I guess this and that.
We don't have a producer or nothing to write notes or anything.
So I thought I went on Eurogamer and just like scrolled down the last few days' news, and literally nothing of consequence happened.
No,
just nothing interesting had happened. So obviously there's been some big news about Activision Blizzard.
Yeah, that's what I was about to mention
over the last couple of weeks.
That was what I'm going to mention.
Which might not be the best idea to go into, given it's a legal case, and we might fall foul of some kind of...
What is it? Presuming, allegedly, some foul practices, work practices, but that's alleged. Like, at the moment, it's just
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, we're going to be careful not to get ourselves in trouble, but they're being sued by the state of California, so there's probably a pretty decent case there.
Yeah,
and there's been a lot of fallout from that. Part of which has been a lot of people quitting World of Warcraft and moving over to Final Fantasy 14, which you can see on my shelf there.
Could you imagine? Can you believe that? Like, after all these years, something's come along to finally beat World of Warcraft. Well, it's beating it. It's going to beat it, I think. I mean, like Warcraft was like the pinnacle of MMOs, and nothing can seem to knock it off its perch. But
as someone who'd played Final Fantasy 14 for like 8 years and has like their job icon tattooed on them, it's made my queue times really long. Thanks a lot, guys. Now I have to queue for like 20 minutes to get into the game because of all these new people coming in.
All the ex-WoW players coming over. Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of mess going on with Activision Blizzard, so that's probably the biggest thing. How that shakes out, yet to be seen, I guess. But it's probably gonna there's probably gonna be some big fallout from that because I mean, like Activision Blizzard are one of, if not the biggest publisher in the games industry, and they're getting sued by a US state, so it's serious. But yeah, we just have to wait and see how it shakes out. I don't really want to say too much, just in case we put a foot in one of our feet in our mouths or something, because we're not lawyers.
No. All right. So, like, moving on from that, anything else that's been happening?
Well, there was the Halo Infinite tech preview last weekend, which I mentioned.
We'll be going into a bit more.
Yeah, that's one of our. We've got two main topics this week, so that's one of them. Other than that, like I say, I scrolled through Eurogamer's homepage just looking at the news. It was like, no, that's not interesting. That's not interesting. Not much else has happened really that I can tell. I think there was, I can't remember when this was announced, but there was a small piece of news which you might be interested in. You and I might be interested in. Many people might not, but they are finally re-releasing Fatal Frame 5, the one that was a Wii U exclusive.
Oh, the
Maiden of Blackwater.
Yeah.
That's getting a release on everything, I think, in October.
Yeah, so that will be part of the our month of horror. I plan to make a few videos on that. I don't know if you're going to do anything for that, but we got an idea for our month of horror, which is a new idea. It's different. You have to tune in to
zany and dynamic.
Yeah, it's something different.
Something very different for us.
Yeah, but I'm quite looking forward to giving it a try.
It should be fun.
Yeah, but should we before we get into the main topic? You've watched the Olympics that was being held in the glorious nation of Nippon.
Watched bits of it. Yeah, not a great deal, to be fair.
I haven't been following any of it, to be honest with you. I just had zero interest in the Olympics this year. I've never really been a big Olympics fan. It comes along every 4 years, like the World Cup, and I always like. It's good for when it's on, and then when it goes, it kind of bankrupts the city that it's in, bankrupts it, or like the facilities that was used just go to
sit unused
and lie derelict. I mean,
well, it's like Exo 19 that we went to was in the Copperbox Arena in the London Olympic Park, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Other than that, I can't think of anything that's actually used those facilities.
No, when we had it in London, the Olympic track and field, that was given over to a local football club, basically for free. So it wasn't used for what its intended purpose was, to train future Olympians. It was
given to here's an Olympic tier stadium. You can have it for free. Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So like,
by the way, the public paid for all of this, but it's yours for free.
They pay
now go and sell tickets and make money from it.
They pay a small amount of rent. The taxpayers pay for it basically. But yeah, so I don't know what Japan plan to do with their newly built stadiums and stuff once the Olympics are over. You know, with COVID and restrictions there, they didn't have tourists in there, so they probably lost a lot of money from that. I mean, I think this has hit them big time, like financially, because without tourists, spectators there to watch the games, that's hit them a bit, because that's what you get. Most of your income from is overseas tourists, advertisements, and stuff like that. And obviously they couldn't do that, and they've probably got. I'm going to say a few.
Leave them in a big hole, I should imagine.
Big hole, yeah. But yeah, let's move on to. Sorry for that little turn. I just wanted to discuss it because it's the Olympics, and it's quite a big deal. But I'm not a big Olympics fan, and I'm sure you watch a bit of it, but
Yeah, I watch it very, very casually. Just sort of if it's on, I'll chuck it on and watch a bit. Watch a few like a few track races or something.
I'm more
Sometimes try and watch some of the football, but I missed that this time.
I'm more into like the Winter Olympics because I think Winter Olympics are a bit cooler. You got snowboarding.
I see what you did there.
I was like, oh yeah, I did a little bit. It's you got snowboarding, you got the bobsleigh, you got quite good stuff, and it's more chance of people hurting themselves when they do that. So that's what I'm looking.
That's what you're watching it for, the rubbernecking.
Yeah, but today's main topic, we discussed it earlier. We got two main topics. We're trying because we want to sort of like the topics we're going to discuss. We're going to fairly short topics, so we're just going to like discuss these two. But the first topic we're just going to discuss is Halo Infinite. The multiplayer was not released to the public. You had to sign up for it. Is that correct?
Yeah, you had to register, and then it was basically they sent out invites at random. And luckily, I got one. I think they invited 100,000 people, and it seems like all of the big Halo YouTubers managed to get in. So I don't know how random it was. Obviously, they wanted.
Obviously, they're going to put. They're going to definitely put in the big YouTube, Halo YouTubers, just for the exposure and the free publicity. But you played it.
Yeah, I did. I played quite a bit of it. I got slightly addicted.
Yeah.
But as we've probably made clear on the channel, we're both big Halo fans.
Yeah.
But Paul's more on the campaign side. And I used to be until Halo 5, really. Halo 5 was the first one where I got really into the multiplayer. I've played all of the multiplayers. I probably put a couple of 100 hours into each of them at least. But Halo 5, I've put like over 2,000 hours into the multiplayer. That one just really grabbed me. So I was a bit worried about Infinite because a lot of the Spartan abilities have been quite controversial, and I love some of them, like the.
Can we talk?
I really like the thrusters.
Can we talk about the new abilities? What's new and what's not for people who don't know? What have they added? What have they taken out?
So, for context, in Halo 5, you had the butt slide. So if you crouch while you were sprinting, you had sprint, obviously, which has been in there since Reach, essentially. You had thrusters, so like the jetpack on your shoulders that allowed you to sort of jink sideways or whatever direction you wanted to go. You had the ground pound, which you do by holding melee button in midair, and then you do a ground pound. And then you had Spartan charge, which when you're sprinting, you hit melee and you like just charge at someone like a train. Pretty much all of that is gone in Infinite. The only thing that remains is sprint and slide. Yeah, but that's more than I was expecting, to be honest. I thought they might leave sprint in at most, and then everything else would be gone. And the things I use the most in Halo 5 are the slide and the thrusters. So at least one of the things I use a lot is still in. But so you can still, in Halo 5, you could sprint and slide and then jump, and it would transfer the momentum. Like sliding in Halo 5 gives you a ton of momentum. And then when you jump, you carry that momentum through, so you can jump quite far. You can still do that in Infinite, but it's slightly different because it takes the slide. It almost feels like your character jumps into the slide. So you have to wait a second or so for it to actually reach momentum. So you can't do a really quick sprint slide jump because otherwise you just won't go anywhere. So you need to give it a second now. So I think they've balanced it to try and make you commit to the slide to get any kind of momentum out of it, which feels okay, but it'll be a bit of a change. Sprint has always been very controversial in Halo. So there's a lot of people that feel like they stretched all the maps out to account for sprint because everyone's just going to be sprinting everywhere. So the maps got bigger for no good reason. In this, it's barely faster than base movement speed. There was a clip someone put up on Twitter. They were following someone. Someone was sprinting around the map, and they followed them at just normal walking speed, and they pretty much kept up with them the whole time. So, but I think that's a good thing personally, because it means you don't have to sprint around the map all the time to be at top speed. You can just walk normally, and you'll move at pretty much the same speed. Sprint is basically there just to allow you to slide now, which is fine by me. The thing I'm less sure about is the changes to the radar. Because it used to be you'd show up on radar whenever you were moving, unless you were crouching. So if you wanted to stay off radar, all the old Halo games, you had to crouch walk. And now you're off radar unless you're firing or sprinting. So if you walk around at normal base movement speed, you won't show up on the radar. So you're probably going to feel a bit less safe just sort of walking around the map. So you're going to have your head on a swivel a bit. That's going to take a bit of time to get used to, because I do use the radar quite a lot. But yeah, in gameplay terms, it feels really good. It's
what they feels like. What have they added? That they added the grapple, right? How's that?
Well, that's equipment. So you remember the equipment in Halo 3 where you pick it up and then you use it once. It's like that. It's like a mix between that and the Spartan. What were the Spartan abilities called in Reach? I can't remember. I think they were called Spartan armor abilities.
Yeah.
So you know how they were on countdown. They were on a cooldown. But you just had it all the time. In Infinite, you have to pick them up like equipment in Halo 3, and if you come across another one you want to drop the one you're carrying, you can swap them. But then you get a certain number of uses out of them. So the grapple is 3 uses. So you pick it up like you'd pick up, say, like the grav lift in Halo 3, but then you can use it 3 times before it runs out. So I think that's going to be. I kind of felt like equipment wasn't that big a deal in Halo 3, unless it was like the bubble shield. Most people really didn't get much advantage off of it. But I think in this, it's going to be what people fight over on the map, because like the grapple especially opens up so much in terms of traversal, and you can grab stuff with it as well. There's on one of the maps that the grapple is on in the tech preview, the hammer is on the map and it's on a platform just sort of off the side of the map, so you have to sprint and jump for it, or you could just grapple it and it would pull it to you. So you've already seen like people trolling others. They wait for someone to go for the hammer, and then just as they reach it, they just grapple it away from them.
That's not annoying at all.
It looks like it'll be really annoying. But then also you can like grapple around the map and grapple to players and smash them with the hammer. So the grapple seems like it's going to be very powerful. But we haven't seen most of the equipment. So we've seen from one of the multiplayer, I think it was the E3 this year, they put out a multiplayer trailer, and they showed a few different equipments, and one of them's like a deflector or something on the wrist. So it shows someone firing like an overcharged plasma pistol bolt at someone, and they put their hand up and like deflect it back at them and then drain their shields instead. That wasn't in there. Apparently people have been data mining, and apparently the thruster from Halo 5 is now a pickup, so that should be in there. I can't remember what other ones are there, but basically in the tech preview, you've got the grapple and I think overshield and camo actors pickups now as well. So most of it we haven't seen. It was a very limited tech preview. There was 3 maps and it was only against bots, and they changed up the bot difficulty. So they've said there's 4 levels of difficulty for the bots. There's Recruit, Marine, ODST and Spartan. And they started on Recruit, the second one, and then moved it up to ODST, and then towards the end they moved it up to Spartan. And you could feel they got a bit more capable as they went up, but they're not like a proper replacement for a human player, but they are actually quite impressively good for bots.
Can I ask you, like, what weapons what have they kept, what have they added, like in terms, because I saw a video of the one you made for the channel, when you did a little kill streak, and that's a new weapon. I've not seen that before. What was that? Yeah,
that's the skewer. So it basically just, I think it must be a banished weapon. It looks like a very brutish weapon, but it basically just fires it's basically a harpoon gun. It just fires a massive metal spike, and it's kind of like a sniper basically, but it's like a sniper but a projectile, so you have to kind of lead your shots a bit, unless you've been very close like I was with the 3 kills I got with it. And but yeah, getting like a no scope kill with that is very, very satisfying. It seems to be a one-hit kill anywhere on the body, which is very powerful, but it's quite hard to fire. But yeah, there's that as a new weapon. There's Heat Wave, which is kind of feels like a replacement for the scatter shot, the Promethean shotgun. So it doesn't function quite like a shotgun. It's more about like sending out tracking rounds. What else was there? The Commando, which was in the campaign gameplay demo from last year, which is kind of like a full auto DMR basically. That's quite fun. Any other new weapons? The new pistol, the pistol's quite different. It's like a rapid fire pistol, which is a 7-shot kill, whereas like the pistol in Halo 5 is a 5-shot kill, but it's got a slower rate of fire. That feels pretty good to get kills with. The battle rifle's back. Battle rifle feels good. The assault rifle is there, and that feels quite powerful this time. What else is there? There's a plasma carbine, which is a bit like the storm rifle, but it fires like 3-round bursts, and that's very hard to use at any kind of range. But it feels like if you're good with it, you absolutely shred people with that thing. Yeah, the weapons all feel pretty good so far, and it plays well. It plays the way I've kind of squared it in my head is it feels like a mix between Halo 2 Anniversary multiplayer with the equipment from Halo 5 and some of the movement from, with the equipment from Halo 3 and some of the movement from Halo 5. So it feels like a pretty good mashup of those three, which are probably my 3 top Halo games, really. So yeah, as I say, I was a bit concerned about it beforehand because I knew they were going to strip out all the stuff I liked from 5, but it still feels really good. So I'm pretty positive about it now, I think.
So what's your overall thoughts? Are you looking, has that made you more hyped? Are you satisfied? Are you got any concerns apart from the ones you about stripping back?
Well, as I say, it was only against bots. I think they opened it up to PvP for like 2 hours. Very, very late night, like literally like early hours of the morning UK time on last Sunday. So I was in bed. I didn't get the chance to play the PvP. So against bots, they always show up on the radar, so you always know where they are, and it just doesn't feel any different. But against human opponents, they aren't going to be showing up on the radar. So I'm just going to have to wait and see what it feels like playing against other humans. But in terms of how it actually feels and how it plays, it feels really good. I'm pretty excited for it now. Whereas before I was kind of cautiously optimistic, I guess. But now, I think they've done a really good job of kind of bridging classic and modern Halo.
From what I've been hearing and reading and watching, the feedback has been pretty positive. People are pretty excited. They're pretty satisfied with what they've played so far. Obviously, because like there's some people who think that Halo is past its sell-by date. It's irrelevant now. But there's a lot of people who've been saying that this is sort of return to form. Because I know you liked the previous Halo games from the new developer, 343. But a lot of like the older, not the older fans, but people who like the, the Bungie era, are saying that Halo's lost its way. But from what I've been hearing, is that they're saying the people who are saying those things are pretty satisfied with what they've been playing so far.
Yeah, as I say, I think it's a pretty decent middle ground between like classic Halo and modern Halo. So I don't think it feels like there are going to be compromises on both sides, but I feel like they're compromises everyone can live with. And as I say, sprint has always been a big deal for some because they felt it elongated the maps and made it easier to get out of engagements and stuff. And now the fact that it's barely higher than base movement speed kind of mutes that. So I think there are people that are like, oh, well, sprint's still in, but it doesn't really change the game now, seeing as you can walk around perfectly fine. Like the base movement speed feels nice and high, especially if you set a nice wide FOV. And there's an FOV slider on console, which is a big fucking deal. More games need to do. But I think most of the qualms people have now are quite like minor niggles rather than anything. They're like, well, I'd prefer it if it was gone completely, but it's fine. It doesn't really affect the game. So hopefully it'll do well. I mean, it's free to play. It's going to be on 3 platforms: Xbox One, Xbox Series, and PC. So it should have a decent player base, and hopefully they just keep updating it and adding new stuff to it.
Yeah, cool. Obviously, I haven't played it or anything, so I'm quite looking forward to getting my hands on it, playing it. Obviously, it's on Game Pass, so we'll get that. I know you'll be buying a physical copy of it.
Yeah, I mean, if they do a Legendary Edition, I'll be all over that.
I probably will as well, because I do like Halo. It's one of those few. Because with Game Pass now, I haven't bought actually a physical game. I mean, I haven't. Everything's been on Game Pass or bought digitally, which is kind of filling up my hard drive. I want to get an external hard drive, the one you can just plug into the back. I've seen this a lot of videos of people going, if you want an external hard drive, this is what you got to do. Turn your Xbox around, plug it in. There you go. That's done. And I've seen the comparisons with the PlayStation 5. There's no shade at the PlayStation 5, but this is just fact that you gotta have a tutorial. You gotta have some tools. You gotta open it up, screw the cover off, take that hard drive out, and put a new put a new one, or is it put a new larger hard drive, isn't it?
Well, the hard drive that's actually on the PS5 is soldered to the motherboard, so you can't change that.
Oh, so you got.
So it has a separate bay for another one.
Yeah.
You've got to open it up, stick it in there.
Which is it? Yeah.
I remember when they did the teardown of it, and they were like, "And here's the bay for the separate for the external SSD." And I was like, "There's no fucking cooling around that. What? That's gonna get really hot."
Oh, yeah.
And now they're like, "And make sure you've got a decent heatsink." I'm like, "Yeah, a heatsink is going to soak the heat. How's it going to expel the heat?"
Yeah,
I think that's very hot. But I had a friend who's not very tech savvy send me the instructions the other day, and they were like, "What does this mean?" And it was like pages of text, and I was like, "Jesus Christ!"
Yeah.
Like the average console consumer is just going to look at that and go, "What?"
Yeah.
And I don't blame them, because you're not dealing with that stuff in consoles.
Yeah, that's more of a PC thing, man. But yeah. So that was a brief little chat about Halo, and our second topic. I was trying to find some way of transitioning into the second topic, but I'm not that smart or on the ball. So
we're not that good. It doesn't matter.
Not that good. Yeah.
Let's just dive in.
Speaking of Halo, remember that time there was going to be a live action Halo game directed by film that was going to be directed by Peter Jackson, I think. Was it Peter Jackson? Well, he was
either going to direct it or he was going to produce it. He was involved in some capacity. Yeah.
So that was my clumsy way of transitioning to our new topic, which is games to film adaptation. The good, the bad, the ugly. Since there's been video games, there's been like attempts to make them into live action, and I think the majority of them at the moment have been pretty bad. I mean, there's that what's that German director who produced Eva Boll. Yeah, he just I don't know how he got the licenses for all this. There must have been some sort of deal or something.
Quite a character, that guy. Yeah. I remember him constantly like offering people out for a boxing fight when they said his films were shit.
Yeah, like basically he was
films are shit though, mate.
Yeah, he was offering out these nerds who'd never like exercise in a day of their life, and they'll go up in a ring against this aggressive German guy whose boxing technique wasn't very good, but he was aggressive. And he would just lever them, knock these like these skinny little guys out. I was just like, oh my god! But like
slightly unhinged, quite frankly.
He's quite mad. But like we've watched a lot of video game film adaptations of video games. There's been a lot, but what's your overall opinion about them, Mr. Rawls? What do you think? Has there been any successful video game adaptations?
So my thinking is they kind of don't need to exist.
Yeah.
Like I feel like in the past, when gaming was sort of more, or rather less mainstream and kind of more frowned upon than it is now, I feel like a lot of people saw it as kind of like adding legitimacy to it. So like, oh, if my favorite game gets a movie, then that means it's like it matters. But they're always terrible. Like there've been quite a few lately that have come out that I haven't seen.
Yeah, we'll discuss. We'll talk about that in a bit. Yeah.
So I guess my point of view is possibly a little out of date because I haven't seen a lot of the newer ones. But the fact that I haven't seen them is kind of emblematic of it because I don't really want to see them. I'm not really interested in seeing them. So I mean, you had like even up to. Sorry, go on.
The short of it is no. Like, because I asked you like if there'd been any good, and you sort of danced around it. You just been like, well, yeah.
Well, I think there have been some very bad ones, and there have been some less bad ones. Like I enjoyed the Mortal Kombat film from what was like 1994, I think, because it was just it was very silly, and it was the mid 90s.
The one with Christopher Lambert, from the Highlander. Yeah, he was playing Raiden. Raiden, sorry.
I enjoyed that at the time, but also I was 10, so it was. I'm sure if I watched it now outside of nostalgia, I'd think it was terrible. And the Silent Hill film, I think, was actually the first one was actually pretty decent right up until the ending. It wasn't an amazing film, but it kind of nailed the aesthetic and it had a pretty decent atmosphere.
You know what? And I remember watching that and I thought that was pretty decent. The ending was a bit, but
OTT
and the switching of roles, because obviously it was the father who went to look for the daughter. Is it Harry Mason, wasn't it? Went to go, and he was played by Sean Bean. And I'm quite glad that they switched it, because if that was Sean Bean playing it, he probably would have got killed. So, so I'm glad they switched that, so he got to live in one of his films that he was in.
But what kind of tarnishes that for me is the fact they did a sequel, which was based on Silent Hill 3, and I really like Silent Hill 3, and the sequel film was awful.
Well,
we went to see that in the cinema.
Yeah.
So I was angry after that.
Yeah, it had Jon Snow in it.
It did.
He did. I realised, I was like, oh yeah, it's Kit Harington's in there.
Vincent. Playing Vincent.
Yeah, he was in. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, but that film is terrible, and it annoyed me because the first one was actually pretty decent and it had a decent foundation to build off of, and the second one was awful.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I think they are more often than not awful. Like Street Fighter was another one that came out when I was in primary school, and I remember going to see that with a friend at school. I must have been in year 6 at the time, so that must have been around the same time, year 6 or 7. That must have been like 93, 94. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that was very silly as well.
The one with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Jean-Claude Van Damme and Kylie Minogue.
He was playing Guile.
Yeah, Kylie Minogue was Cammy. And E. Honda was a Hawaiian guy. Yeah,
instead of being Japanese, he was one of those Hawaiian guys who plays the ukulele or something like that. and Ken and Ryu were like two like hustlers, like con men. I was like, this is taking some liberties.
And Blanca and Charlie were mashed into one character for some reason. It was Raul Julia as M. Bison was like the main.
Good, yeah.
The one leading light of that film.
He was having such a good time with that role. He was just like, right, this is schlock. This is absolute crap. But I'm gonna
have fun with it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have fun with it, and he did. He looked like he was having such good fun with it. And
for him, it was Tuesday.
Yeah, that was a good line, to be honest. But the film I remember is one of the first video game films.
I know which this is going to be.
Yeah, came out when I was very young, as a kid. Like I must have been like about 9 or 10 or something. Was the Super Mario Brothers film, and
Bob Hoskins.
It had Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo.
John Leguizamo.
Yeah, in it. You play Mario,
and Luigi Mario.
And I saw that in the cinema, and I remember going to see it in the cinema. I had my aunt around from Colombia, and obviously she couldn't speak much English, and she went to see it. And then I remember afterwards we asked her, "Did you like the movie?" She was like, "Oh no, it's shit." I was like, "Wow."
She was right.
I was a kid. I was like, "No, what are you talking about? This film was great." But obviously, when you grow up and you get a sense of taste, like in films, it is absolute tripe. It is one of the worst adaptations. But I remember there being a lot of hype for it, like you know, because it had some good big name acting. It had Dennis
Hopper.
Dennis Hopper as Bowser,
as Cooper. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he wasn't called Bowser. He was King Cooper. And I don't know who played Daisy, but she was quite a famous actress. I can't remember
now.
Yeah, but yeah, they took some liberties with
they sure
IP.
Did.
It was so bad that Nintendo said that they will never lease out their characters to be made into live actions again. So they were so disappointed with that film.
It was very bad.
Yeah, I mean, it was set in a sort of steam, sort of dystopia,
weird, grimy,
future, like alternative world of like where like we descended from monkeys and they descended from dinosaurs. So it was absolutely.
I don't know what they were smoking crazy when they made that.
It was crazy, man. Like I wish I was a bit older to find out how the behind the scenes, because apparently it was a lot of the cast and crew were like drunk and taking stuff, because they were just like, this film's crazy, like we're just gonna have to get through the production of it, we're just gonna have to take a few things to get them through it. I know Bob Hoskins hated
I kind of don't blame him.
Bob Hoskins definitely hated the film, and I think he was like drunk a lot on set. But
I mean, you'd have to be, wouldn't you,
to
get through it?
I mean, like Dennis Hopper on it, he's crazy. Like he probably read the script and thought this was brilliant. Like, because he started some crazy films. That guy had a bit of a screw loose, but yeah, Super Mario Brothers, not great. I mean, there's some people who try and defend it now. I'm like, no, come on, man, it's not good. If they got to take out the Mario Brothers element, I'm like, no. Even when the Mario Brothers, even if you rename them, everything, it's still not a good movie. It's so bad. But it's not even it's bad, it's good. It's just kind of just like not an enjoyable
so
movie.
Bad it's bad.
Yeah.
But that's half the problem, I think, because as I say, like I think a lot of fans are kind of like, or at least were at the time when kind of there was a bit of a craze for doing it, sort of like early mid-90s, I guess, when you had like the Mario Brothers film and Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. I do feel like a lot of people at the time are like, yeah, like having a movie of my favorite game legitimizes gaming or whatever. I honestly feel that was part of what drove the hype for these films.
Mm-hmm.
But a big problem with people making game films is, I mean, obviously it's a different medium, so you have to adapt it. You can't just sort of like stick whatever works in the game, stick it on a screen and make something interactive, something passive without any changes. So you do have to adapt it, but you change so much about it that it's like barely distinguishable. What's the point? Like with Street Fighter, like there's no real kind of Street Fighter-ness to it other than sort of how some of the characters look. And the Mario Brothers film, like, it's literally completely divorced from any kind of established Mario.
Yeah, I mean, like there are some games that could translate well into film. I mean, like they did. Like, I'm gonna give you an example. There's been two versions of this IP. One with a very famous actress. Which it was the Tomb Raider film, where the first attempt at it had Angelina Jolie as Lara Croft. And that kind of works, because like Tomb Raider is kind of like an Indiana Jones sort of clone. Like the games were, it's sort of like that. The games were like Indiana Jones-esque. So you could make a good story out there, but again, it just didn't really. There was two with Angelina Jolie, and I remember watching one, and it had Daniel Craig in it in the first one. And
two? I thought there was three for some reason.
No, there's only two with her in it. There was the Tomb Raider and Lara Croft Tomb Raider, and the second was Lara Croft, the Cradle of Life
or something.
Yeah. And the first one had like Daniel Craig in it, and he had a really bad American accent. You know, he can't pull off an American accent. But they're kind of like, because the story's quite simplistic, really, isn't it? It's like she goes around and she steals a lot of, well, she's supposed to be an archaeologist, but she raids tombs, she just steals stuff. And obviously, like, there's a supernatural element to a lot of the Tomb Raider games, and but it sort of didn't really work that well. So yeah, I just feel like the films just sort of suffered because of that. I mean, they did try and reboot it. I wait, yeah, they rebooted it recently with that.
Alicia Vikander,
Yeah, like, I'm glad you said her name. She's she's Danish,
Swedish, I think.
Swedish. And they based that off the reboot of Lara Croft games, which was set on the Japanese island of what was the island called? What was the island called?
I can't remember.
No,
I remember the main antagonist was Himiko. I can't remember what the island was called.
The Lost Island of. Oh, that's going to annoy me now because I played that game so much. But yeah,
I played it about 4 times.
Yamatai,
what did you think of that
one?
Was it Yamatai? Yamatai, yeah.
I didn't.
What did you think of that film?
I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. No, I didn't like it. I thought it was okay. It was better than the Angelina Jolie one. The cinematography was better. The acting was a lot better. It wasn't so campy because it was like that game is quite dark, and they try to mix in with some dark, try to make it more grounded and more sort of like adult. But I don't think they pushed it enough. It sort of was it was a bit too safe. And it was kind of like they got rid of the supernatural element of it. They made like what was the princess's and the queen's name? Himiko. They made it into a virus instead of a living spirit, which was kind of weird. And it is how long the movie was, probably about 100 minutes long, and even though the game is not that complex, they sort of like compressed it and took a lot of sort of the story elements out, which kind of like diluted it a bit, which is another problem with adapting video games, especially if you adapt a storyline. You gotta condense, say, like a 10, 15, 20-hour game into 2 hours to a film. It doesn't really work because there's a lot of elements in that of a game that make it work: characters, settings, location, story. And trying to condense that down into 2 hours, you got to sort of trim the fat. But a lot of the elements that make a good game don't really make it into the film, and that sort of affects it. You know, I
think you talking about them changing Himiko from like a vengeful spirit to a virus is pretty emblematic of what I was talking about a minute ago, where they change stuff for the sake of changing it, because they're like, you get the feeling they're like, oh, this element's too video gamey, or whatever that would mean to whichever person says it. So we need to change that. I mean, would it have been a worse movie if it was just the same as the game and there were supernatural elements and there was the spirit of Himiko was haunting Yamatai? Would that have been a worse film than a virus that had been lying around for 800 years or whatever?
Possibly. I mean, they took elements out of it, but they added their own elements. Obviously, they added the dad being in it. They added that into it. He wasn't in the game, so they did add elements into it which they thought would probably make the film more interesting. So they took some stuff out, they put some of their own ideas in there, and it didn't really mesh well with the story. I felt it was a good attempt. I mean, like, there was like, if we can go into some other games which I thought would have made good films, there was the Prince of Persia film with Jake Gyllenhaal. That had great production values. They had good cast.
A good looking film.
Yeah, but again, it still didn't really work. I remember watching it and I'm thinking, yeah, this is from what I've seen so far, it's probably the better adaptation of a video game. And again, they sort of mixed in different elements of the games. So I know they had like elements from the first and the second game in it. Did it work? It made entertaining movie. I mean, it wasn't great. It was just,
You
it
know,
was
until you
okay.
mentioned it, I forgot it existed.
It-
But yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it was quite an entertaining film. It was fine.
Mhm,
It wasn't. I don't think it was a bad film by any stretch of the imagination.
uh-huh.
But it's just sort of, is it something that needs to exist?
Well, that's the thing, like
I
you're saying,
guess.
that with 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 video game uh adaptations, like do they really need to do it? I mean, like it especially like people go, oh, that this will make a good film. Like it's a story-based game. It's like, I'm gonna say an example here. Like they got the Last of Us TV show coming out, the HBO one. I'm like, but does that really need to be made? I mean, the game itself is pretty much like
The game is literally a mini series.
series. Yeah, it's very story focused, very very cutscene heavy,
It's very
and
filmic.
very cinematic, very filmic. Yeah,
That's the
does
thing, you
it?
can see that game takes a lot of language of like film and high budget TV anyway.
Mhm.
So I'm in the same boat. When they announced it, I'm like, does it really need to be a TV show? Because it kind of is already. But as you know, I don't say that to disparage it. I love The Last of Us. I think it's a fantastic game. But it's like playing through a TV miniseries. So do I need to sit back and passively watch that? Not really.
Yeah,
Kind of feel like I already have, but just
yeah,
with the
yeah,
bonus of gameplay.
yeah. I mean,
But I
like,
do think. Sorry, go on.
yeah, like, I was gonna agree with you. I love that game. I think it's probably like that's like sort of a pinnacle of like video game storytelling. But again, it's that the developers, I think, had it in their mind that they wanted it to be like a TV series, like a film. The story structure of it and everything like that was very like they were sort of like imitating film
Mm-hmm.
and making it into a video game instead of being a video game and then, you know, like starting off thinking of it that way. I think they sort of planned it out as a film, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
absolutely. It
Yeah.
is very much bringing like the language of film and like high budget HBO style TV storytelling. It is literally bringing that to video games. So it doesn't feel like it needs to exist as what it essentially is its own sort of reference point. And there are films and stuff that do that anyway. Like when I played The Last of Us, I was like, okay, so it's basically like Children of Man plus Dawn of the Dead. Okay, fine. Does it need to exist as a TV show where it's already kind of very derivative of things that already exist in that medium? I don't think it really needs to. I mean, I'll watch it because it's got a great cast and they're probably throwing a load of money behind it, so it'll probably look great. But I don't think it needs to exist.
You could say the same thing for the Witcher. I mean, The Witcher. Have you seen the Netflix TV show?
I've only watched 2 episodes of it.
And what did you think? Did you enjoy?
It seemed okay from what I watched.
It's good. I liked it. And again, but that's kind of different because it was a book before it was a game, and then it made so I could sort of,
as I understand it hews closer to the books as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's more.
I've read 3 or 4 of the books, so I do mean to get to it and watch it at some point, but I just keep putting it off. But yeah, I mean, that kind of put that similar to something like Lord of the Rings, where it kind of came from a literary background first.
Yeah. But yeah, like so far, video game adaptations. I mean, there's a lot more. There's that terrible film with Mark Wahlberg. Was it not Alone in the Dark? It was Max Payne. That one, and that had I think he was fighting like supernatural beings in there, and I was like, I don't remember that being in Max Payne.
They did a Hitman film as well, didn't they?
Oh, they did 2 Hitman films.
Did they?
Yeah, they did one with 2 different actors in it.
They've done Tekken films and
I'd never
more
seen
Street Fighter films. I think the Rise of Chun-Li or something.
Yeah. I didn't see that.
And then they did Dead or Alive, which had Holly Willoughby in it. I think not Holly Willoughby. What was it? Holly Valance, that Australian actress?
Yeah.
I think she was meant to be Kasumi or something. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But they've all been terrible. And then we haven't even touched upon kind of probably what is the biggest success story in video game film adaptations, which is the honestly pretty awful Resident Evil films.
Oh bloody hell, yeah. Oh, what was it?
What are there, 6 of them?
Six of them. Yeah, what like like not Angelina Jolie,
Mila Jovovich's husband that
yeah.
makes them, isn't it?
Is it Paul W? Is it Paul Anderson? Or is it Paul W?
Yeah, Paul. Let me check, because there's two of them with very similar names.
Yeah. One's a really good director, and the other one's not so good.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Paul W.S. Anderson. Yeah.
Paul W.S. Anderson.
He's also the one that did the 1994 Mortal Kombat film, which we talked about earlier, and which I said is a bit of a guilty pleasure. So
yeah, I mean,
he's been at it for a while.
It's a fairly decent film, the Mortal Kombat one. I mean, Annihilation that came out after that was god awful. Did you ever see that one, Annihilation? The one that's straight, yes. Yeah, very bad. But yeah, Resident Evil, man, that's probably the most successful video game adaptation. Even though critically not very good. I've seen all of them, and they've all been god awful. I mean,
I've seen the first 3, I think.
Yeah.
And up to the one that had Nemesis in it, that was supposed to be based on Resident Evil 3. And it was so dark that I could barely tell what was happening.
That was number 2. That was Resident Evil 2.
Oh, was that 2? Okay, so I've only seen 2 of them.
Yeah, she fist fights Nemesis at the end, and I was like, right, so you're standing there fist fighting a Nemesis. So I'm pretty sure he can pound you into pace with one punch, but there you are.
That was a series where they just changed things for the sake of changing
the continuity of that film was all over the place. Like they gave Alice special powers, like near the end of Resident Evil 2, where she had psychic powers. Then in the next one she lost those powers. Then in the other one she regained them, and then she had like superhuman speed and strength. I was like, well, so basically she was like a Wesker character. Then they nerfed her again, because obviously they were like, well, she's a bit too powerful, so we can't actually have her doing all this stuff. And then they had those clones. I think that was in the one in the desert where you had like Carlos.
Afterlife.
Yeah, and then all the clones got killed off in the beginning of the next film. They were like, well, we can't have like hundreds of Alice clones, so we'll just kill off like the clones. But the thing is, like in the beginning of that film, when she raids the tower, there's only like 6 or 7 clones. I was like, I'm pretty sure in the end of that film there was like a good like 20 or 30 of them. But obviously they got rid of that storyline. So yeah, basically they reset her abilities and sort of reset the story at the beginning of each film. So they never like sort of like had the film continually like leading to one another. It's sort of just like, right, we reset her. We'll put her in a new. Her name was Alice. Put her in a new situation. She'll meet some characters from the games. They'll be like her. They'll be her psychic. And in the next game we'll do that, or next film we'll do that again. So pretty much how Resident Evil is in the games anyway. They're all over the place story wise. Yeah.
So I suppose that part is fairly faithful. But yeah, I mean, it's another sort of example of adapting it for film, but changing stuff just for the sake of it. Because you get the feeling they're like, oh, this part feels too video gamey. It needs to be changed for a film-going audience. And it's like, does it though? It's like again, touching on the Tomb Raider thing, would having Himiko being a vengeful spirit, would that have made that a worse film? I don't think it would have done. I think they could have just done the story of the first game, and it would have been at least as good a film as it was, which was an okay film. But they just seem to, you get the feeling they're not into video games, which is fine. And then they're like, oh, this part's too video gamey, that needs to change. But then you have films that go kind of the other way, like the Doom. Did you ever see the Doom film with
The Rock,
Dwayne Johnson in it?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
and they had a bit where it was in first person.
Yeah,
it was so silly. And I remember reading reviews of it. I think it was in IGN or something. So obviously they're probably going to be a bit more flattering. But they were talking up the first person bit and about how amazing it was and how it felt like being in the game. And I watched it. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? This is so dumb. It's just like, you get a feeling some of the people on that were too much like, let's make it like the game. and put a first person bit with like really camp imps in it for some reason. And it's just, I don't know. I think the ones that are going to work the best are going to be the ones that ape film and TV anyway. So like, The Last of Us will probably be a good TV show, but it'll feel a bit, I mean, I'd imagine mainly it's being made for an audience that don't know the game. So for them, it'll be new. So it makes sense in that context. But I feel like most people that played the game won't get much out of it because they will have already played the game and played the story. And it's not going to be, I don't think it'll be vastly different. But I mean, yeah, it's got A-list actors in it. But I mean, Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker acted out of their fucking skins in the game. So it's not like they did a poor job of it and it needs to be improved on. But yeah, I think the ones that work the best are going to be the ones like that are basically aping cinema anyway. And yeah, as I say, I don't think they need to be made. But as we sort of alluded to at the beginning of this chat, there's been a few in recent years that neither of us have actually seen. So all of this might be well out of date. Maybe they're amazing now. Who knows?
There has been some success stories, but like you said, we hadn't actually watched them. I mean, there's been Detective Pikachu, which was basically it's supposed to be really good. That's sort of like, I didn't really know how they were going to make that work, but apparently they've made it work. It's just like, yeah, Pokemon exists in this world. They exist. That's it's just like how
Deal
it is.
with it.
Yeah, it's not like I was thinking. Oh, they're going to have like some kid transport to like be like an isekai. Yeah, like transports to that world. It's like, oh my god, there's Pokemon. But no, it's just like Pokemon exist in this world. They've always been with us. They're our pets. They're whatever. They're just there. No one questions it. But I've not seen it, and it's Pikachu's voiced by Ryan Reynolds, isn't it? So that's a good start. I mean, how wacky is that, having Pikachu voiced by Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool and all that? So yeah, that's crazy. I've been meaning to watch it, and I think it's on Amazon or Netflix or something like that. So I want to get around to watching that. And also there's been the which is probably the highest grossing video game adaptation, is the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. And I remember that when they first showed the trailer and people lost their shit they saw Sonic. He looked absolutely awful, terrible,
proper nightmare fuel Sonic. That was.
But to be fair, the studio did take an account the massive fan backlash, and they delayed the movie and redone Sonic, and they released a new trailer with the sort of the Sonic that everyone knows, and it looked good. Basically, it's still the same trailer, just like Sonic is just like how looks how Sonic is. So I don't know if that improved.
I don't know how anyone at the studio looked at that original trailer and went, yeah, it looks good.
So again, it's like
was there no one along the production pipeline that went, no, we can't release this. Look at this thing.
It's again like what you said earlier, like a lot of the producers and stuff, they don't know anything about video games. They don't know. So they just probably hired a guy and just gave him some like rough like pictures of how Sonic is, and like, here, can you like sort of design a Sonic? And he sort of just goes, oh, I'm the lead artist, I'll just go my own way. And he gave it to the producers or whatever, and they were just like, yeah, that looks good, we'll go with that. And obviously when the fan backlash, they were like,
not look good.
Yeah, and they're probably like, we want him to look like how he looks in the game. Let's do that. So that poor animator or whatever had to redo that and everything like that. But yeah, he looked good. But I don't know if like just changing Sonic improved the film. I mean, like, I've not watched it, but I've heard some good things. It's got fairly good scores. But
that's the thing, like those two films in particular have both actually been quite well received, and even then I'm like, I'm not fussed. And they're like, I mean, I haven't played Pokemon since the original, but I loved the original Pokemon, and Sonic I grew up with. Sonic was my
which
childhood.
is surprising, because you didn't really grow up on Mario Brothers, you grew up on Sonic, so I thought you would have been all over that film.
I mean, it's kind of, if it was on Netflix or something, I'd get to the point where like, I'll watch it, I guess. But I'm in no rush to watch it, and just partly because I guess I've been conditioned to think video game films are terrible, because by and large they are. So it's like I'm not going out of my way to see it. So I don't know. part of me does want to see that and Detective Pikachu at some point, but it's just no rush really.
Yeah,
I'm not rushing out the door to see it.
well,
Another one that's come along recently is also by Paul W.S. Anderson.
starring his wife.
Kel Surprise.
Yeah.
The Monster Hunter film, which right from the very beginning looked like it was going to be a turd, and apparently was a turd.
Box office flop, even though I don't think did it get released in cinema because it was during lockdown?
I think it did.
It had a limited cinematic
limited run.
Yeah, again, like he put his wife in the lead the lead characters.
The lead character of a U.S. Army soldier.
Yeah,
you all know that's always a big plot element in Monster Hunter.
Yeah, the U.S. Army with their tanks and like submachine guns and stuff like that.
You were talking about how you thought they'd make Detective Pikachu and Isekai. They made fucking Monster Hunter and Isekai instead. Yeah. Just like, why can't it just be a fantasy film set in this fantasy world with these hunters hunting monsters like the game is? Why does there have to be a US Army unit that gets sucked into an alternate world and has to cooperate with Tony Jaa, who doesn't speak their language? Why?
It's because
what are you doing?
It's the fish out of water sort of scenario, isn't it? Like like an Isekai.
It's the audience. It's the audience cipher, isn't it?
Yeah.
To have someone that's in an unfamiliar situation.
We're supposed to project on her. Like, we're learning this whole new world through her eyes.
About the new world through her. Yeah, it's just you don't need. People aren't that stupid, by and large. If you just give someone imagine if Lord of the Rings had like
a
medieval soldier transported from Earth to Middle Earth, and then wound up in the events of the War of the Ring, and we learned about it through them.
Yeah.
Would that make that a better film? No. It's set entirely in Middle Earth, within those cultures, within that context, and people could accept it and enjoy the film. So why do you have to mess around with stuff? You don't need to. It's pointless. All it does is ruin the property that you're working on. Just don't do it. Just stop messing around with things.
Yeah, I think like you said, we've been conditioned to automatically think that every adaptation is going to be bad. It's been ground into us, it's in like our DNA really. Like we've had disappointment after disappointment, and then we've had mediocre. So like we've always think that it's always going to be bad. So even when the film turns out to be not too bad and apparently pretty good, we're still like hesitant to watch it. We'll be like, I can sit here and watch it for 2 hours. Well, what if it's bad? I could be doing something else. I could be playing something else. I could be watching something else. My time is valuable, especially when you get older. You know what I mean? So but
it's like, kind of analogous to how it used to be when we were kids and sort of kids and teens and young adults, I guess, where it was like you could count on video game adaptations to movies being terrible, but you could also count on game adaptations of movies being terrible. So licensed games are always like, everybody knew licensed games not worth your time. They're always going to be terrible. But that's kind of turned around a lot over the last sort of 10, 15 years with like the Arkham games and the like the
Spider-Man.
Lego games have done for like Spider-Man in the last few years. The Lego games with like the Marvel stuff and the Star Wars and Indiana Jones and all that stuff have all been well received. So that can be turned around, and I think the same can happen in like TV and film with a few good adaptations that actually understand the source material they're adapting. Like, I mean, obviously The Witcher is coming from books, but still seems to be a decent adaptation from what everyone said, that I will get around to at some point. The Halo show might end up good, who knows? The Last of Us show probably will be good, even if I don't know if it necessarily needs to exist. So maybe we will start to see it turn around.
They can't mess up The Last of Us though. I mean, the game itself is just more, it is like you say, it is structured like on a film and TV show than more than the video game.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I'm sure it will be, at the very least, it will be decent. I just don't think it needs to exist, because it kind of already does. But I mean, a few decent adaptations can maybe turn that around. I mean, I think it'll take a while for you and me to come around, because we've been sort of through 20 odd years of game adaptations to the big screen being terrible. So to the point where we don't even want to watch the new ones that come along that are well received, like Detective Pikachu or Sonic. But maybe a few good adaptations will turn things around and get people on board. But
there's going to be a new no, there's not, is there? Is there going to be a live action Resident Evil TV show, or I'm thinking is it going to be animated? Is it? I know they got an animated one that's got released on Netflix, starring Leon and Claire.
Yeah, they've got a bunch of CG films, haven't they?
Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be.
I think there was. Yeah, I think I vaguely remember hearing about a live
one
TV show. I didn't really look into it, but it rings a bell.
Yeah, I mean that could be decent, but I do know there's going to be the Uncharted film coming out with Tom Holland and
again something that doesn't need to exist.
Tom Holland as Nathan and Mark Wahlberg as Sully.
Wahlberg as Sully. But yeah, again, that's something that doesn't need to exist because the Uncharted films literally just aped Indiana Jones. So do we need an Indiana Jones ripoff film? Probably not. No. Like they kind of stand out because they're games. Like it's literally like playing an Indiana Jones film when you play an Uncharted film. That's part of the appeal. But does it need to be a film? Not really. I don't think so. And I don't think it needs to exist.
But anyway, like
that's my official line.
Good way to end this discussion, Mr. Rawls. So short of it, there's been a lot of bad adaptations, but it seems like there's been some mediocre ones, but there's been some diamonds out of in there which we haven't watched, so we can't really comment on it. But so I think we're going to leave this conversation there because we can go on a bit longer, but this podcast will be like 2 hours long. So before we go, like what are you planning for the channel? Have you got anything in mind? What any let's plays, anything like that, or any video ideas?
I put up a couple of videos for the Halo Tech preview last weekend, so if you didn't get in and you want to see someone reasonably competent playing the game, then there's a couple of videos there to watch. Other than that, I am this week going to be doing the Psychonauts VR video that I've been talking about for a few weeks and just haven't got around to because it's been too hot and I can't sit around with a TV on my head basically when it's been that hot. But now it's cooled down a bit. I'm going to do that this week, so look out for that on the channel maybe within the next week. And then I don't know, maybe I'll pick some random games to just do some bits and pieces, something that looks fun.
Yeah, we will be following up our discussion about the future of our YouTube channel. What direction we're going to take it. We'll be doing a podcast about that maybe next week or something like that. Or not next week, though, another 2 weeks when we record the next one. But what I'm currently doing a live stream in Mass Effect 2 on our Twitch channel, and check that out. Still working my way through Star Wars Battlefront 2. Also see Frozen. Hello, you still there? Hello?
Have I frozen on your screen?
You froze up. So
you were breaking up on mine a bit.
So before. Okay, so Star Wars Battlefront 2, and I also have a video of the Ascent coming out, the new Xbox RPG. So that's
I just installed that today, so I might have a quick go at that as well. See what it's all about.
It's been getting good reviews, so I'm willing to give that I'm gonna be uploading a video for that. So if you want to check out our social medias, there'll be a link in the YouTube video, and there'll be links in the Spotify video as well. I put links in there now for our social medias and stuff like that. But again, yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This podcast is available on Spotify. So if you want to listen to us while you're doing work or jogging or something in the background, just to ignore, please listen. And yeah, we'll be seeing you again in 2 weeks' time. So bye. Thanks for watching.
See you, pals.
See ya.